Welcome. I'm going to talk about some of the iOS, i.e. iPhone and iPad apps that were developed to support FSpaceRPG and a range of other games. This specific video is about the functionality designed to support those people doing interstellar and sublight travel within the science fiction setting using a starship. Though we originally did our iPhone apps as little separate tools, in later years we combined them into a single tool called FSpaceDIce. As you can tell here, this one was last created in 2021, and around the time just before we ceased doing these apps, this particular version 2.19. And it still runs today on my Macintosh because we allowed the iPad functionality versions to run on the Mac. So I'm going to show you what it looks like before Apple ceases allowing these to function because of the code signing expiry in the certificates. Now what you'll see with this version is that it is slightly busted in terms of the little arrows here don't quite go to where they're supposed to, and there are other problems, and of course some of the rendering in here is for the Mac, so not all of it was updated, but these are all the tools within it. So as you can tell, there's a whole raft of things. Now back in the early 1990s, if we wind the clock back in excess of 35 years, the Atari little ST app that we were developing for Federation space travel was intended to include these two functions here. Though the base code does include some of that, it wasn't fully operating in terms of a UI, but I'll just show you what we delivered later. So as you can tell, rocket acceleration time takes in a number of factors, but we will just go, hey, we'll change it to 8G and do that. And as you can see, some you've got targets, velocity and percent light speed, etc., so that you can sort of see how far you travel based on those specifications and what the travel time is to get to that. So obviously the acceleration, the target velocity you're trying to reach, etc. So very simple app functionality that used to be standalone, and there was a glitch I think in the background being a little too fuzzy. It's scaled it badly. The background is based on astrophotography by Philip Bournes. The other one was the travel distance time. This is a continuous thrust to get from A to B, and we had some presets so that you could sort of go, hey, well, you could go to Mars that's closest approach, and you could see, so this is with a turnover where you're de-accelerating to figure out the travel time. If it was no turnover, it would be that many hours. So as you can see, with continuous thrust, you can get to Mars in a really decent time, unlike the really slow things that we will be doing today. But if we were to go continuous thrust way down here, even at that number of hours, it's still a lot quicker than probably the rocketry we will use in transfer orbits that we will use to get to Mars in the real world. This plus the previous tool give you some really good things for sublight travel. We added to it later with a basic velocity calculator. So based on the speed of light, you could input one of the other values here and it will calculate it. So there we go, at a fraction of light speed, or say we're going to, so it converts across the different kind of units that you're using. And there's a glitch in here. It's trying to do the keyboard on the Mac and is not successful at bringing the on-screen keyboard. So there we go, at 200 knots. These are the kind of figures that we get. So these are useful in case you use one of our other tools and you're not a metric person, in terms of you don't use kilometers and things and you wanted to see it in imperial miles or whatever. So useful, and doesn't have to be about space travel either, but still useful for that. Some of the other tools that would have been useful for you in terms of your travel. If we just go and find, there we go, hyperdrive. Now this is for conventional hyperdrives, not the predominant GM hyperdrives that we have in FSpace, but conventional hyperdrives widely used through the Coalition, and it was found as a very common drive type in earlier universes. So you can select the various grades of drives. There's hyperspatial conditions, your sort of accuracy based on your maybe skill levels. We just put some in there. So depending on how your skill roll is, and then obviously you input the range, and it will tell you how long it will take you to get there, both in days and down in hours. So if we change that to a slow drive, that's what you get. So very useful for that kind of drive type. We did one other that is inspired by, in this case, it does dual purpose between stutter warp from Traveller 2300 AD and pulse warp, which is the one that we support within the FSpace universe. They are slightly different. So pulse warp has some grades. There are, you can select the duration of that pulse and then the gap in between it. So the pulse is how long it is in hyperspace, and then the gap is the gap in between each hyperspace jump, and then across how long a distance, and then you can calculate the duration for that. And obviously stutter warp, which is, there are other people that do this kind of tool, but online, but it did the same thing. It just, we originally did this for variety to support more than our own system, but it can be useful if you wanted to use the stutter warp concept in our game as well. So those are kind of the key kind of tools that would have helped us support star maps, type of application. There is obviously random starship location encounters as well. They're not really written for the FSpace universe, but they're kind of cool. And the ship in this question is our lovely picture of a Imperial courier from Traveller, from some of the stuff we used to, a project we were trying to do for that, which didn't go forward to commercial. So there's a range of other things that cover other areas, but these were the StarMap ones. Some of these tools were converted to work on the web and run on our website. But that's changed for security reasons. Some of the code we wrote wasn't that secure when we put in a robust content security policy. But this gives you an idea. We were doing iPhone apps from about 2009 through to when this one was made in about 2021. I can't remember the exact date when we actually shut down distributing them through the app stores. Though they were still selling, the amount of revenue we were getting was so close to the annual cost of being on the App Store, we decided to close it down before it became a loss. It became very hard through Apple to release smaller individual tools with them and some new ideas, and that was just their policy. They said go and do it on a website, and that is effectively what we did. Of course, it meant we couldn't make any revenue for it, and our ethical stance against tracking that we developed. We didn't start that way. We didn't like web advertising, the kind of intrusion that did. So tools we couldn't make money off when we post them as web pages. But we are going to see what we can do with some of these things that we developed for the future for you. Yeah, we just thought we'd give you this look in to show you kind of what we did between 2009 and 2021. Thank you.